morning, just to let everyone streaming. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. You will have to suffer through me briefly because the mayor is off, hopefully scoring us money. He will be with us shortly, hopefully bearing with him good news. So I'll call us to order, and I think I'll maybe just do the acknowledgement first. So we acknowledge that we are meeting today on the traditional land of Treaty 6 territory, and acknowledge the diverse Indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory for centuries, such as the Cree, the Dene, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Nakota Sioux, as well as Métis and Inuit, and now very gratefully joined by settlers from around the world. So that having been said, I'll now go into the roll call, and it's going to be in a different order, so this will all catch you by surprise, but the list I have so I don't forget anybody comes out in a very strange order. So I'll start with Councillor Walters.
Good morning, Councillor Henderson.
Councillor Banga.
Good morning.
Councillor Zadok.
Good morning.
Councillor McKean. This is jumping all over the place just to keep everybody on their toes.
My God, man. Good morning.
I don't know why it's in this order, but it's a piece of paper that I have to make sure I don't forget any of you. Councillor Hamilton.
Good morning.
Councillor Katarina.
Good morning.
The mayor isn't here. Councillor Essinger.
Good morning.
Councillor Cartmel.
Good morning.
I am here. Councillor Paquette.
Good morning.
Councillor Nicol.
Good morning.
And Councillor Knack.
Good morning.
Great, thanks. All right, we are all gathered except for the mayor then. So if somebody would like to move adoption of the agenda, I think it's fairly straightforward.
I'm happy to move the adoption of the July 6th Emergency Advisory Committee meeting.
Please vote. We don't need a seconder in committee.
I'm a yes.
Thank you, Councillor Walters.
Sorry, my e-scribe's a little slow. I'm a yes as well. Thank you.
Councillor Cartmel?
I'm a yes.
Great. Then please display the vote. And that has passed unanimously. Minutes. Councillor Knack?
Yes, thank you very much. I will move the adoption of the June 8th, 2021 Emergency Advisory Committee meeting minutes.
Any concerns? Seeing none, please vote. At this point, we have all the votes except for Councillor Paquette's, Mr. Chair.
Okay, didn't come in.
I'm a yes.
Thank you very much. We have all the votes.
And display the vote, please. And that has passed as well. Any protocol items? Hearing none. We actually do have two items, so item 3.1 is already selected. Is there anybody who would like 3.2? Hearing nobody then, if somebody would like to move 3.2?
So moved.
I think that was Councilor Banga. So any concerns, conversation? I'm presuming not. Please vote.
We have all the votes except for Councillor Walters. Thank you. We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that is passed. Great. So we don't have any requests to speak. Time specific would be redundant given that we have one item left. So we are on to that item. Mr. Cobold.
Great. Thank you very much, Councillor and committee. Joining us here with me is, or virtually, is Dr. Christopher Sikora, Medical Officer of Health Edmonton Zone. Also joining our city staff, including members of the Executive Leadership Team, Nicole Poirier, the Chair of the COVID-19 Recovery Advisory Team, and Nancy Jacobson, Vice Chair of the COVID-19 Recovery Advisory Team. There are 7 major topics I would like to discuss today. First is the current state of COVID in our city. Second is stage 3 of the provincial Open for Summer plan. Third is the status of masking requirements. Fourth is an update on recreation facilities and programming. Fifth is an update on festivals and events planned for this summer. And sixth is an update on vulnerable populations. And then finally, a look ahead to City Hall reopening later in the summer. So, case numbers and hospitalizations have continued to decline in the Edmonton zone over the past month. These declines are generally consistent with the remainder of the province. We hope to see the numbers to continue declining over the next month as vaccination rates continue to increase. Additionally, we will begin to see less data reported by the province regarding COVID-19. For example, they have stopped reporting outbreaks in schools across the province, largely due to the fact that schools are finished for the summer. Weekend case counts have also stopped with updates on Monday rather than daily. I do, however, want to be clear. Numbers are declining, but COVID is still here. But there is hope, and it's really in the form of vaccine because combined with public health measures, it's limiting the spread of COVID-19. Nearly 4.6 million vaccine doses have been administered in Alberta, and the number continues to increase every day. Vaccination rates are also looking promising, with 73.4% of eligible Albertans vaccinated as of July 4th with their first dose, and 48.4% of age 12 plus with both doses. And when you look at the numbers for over 18, it is 74.5% have their first dose and 50.7% are fully vaccinated over the age of 18. Vaccines are up and the spread of COVID is down. The R value is below 1 in both Edmonton and Alberta, meaning that each person who has COVID is on average passing it along to less than one person. We're also seeing a positive shift on our recovery dashboard, which you see here, with both the overall case rate and our consolidated response trending closer to green. In the last month, the caseload indicator has moved from 6 to 7.5, and the integrated response measures have moved from 4 to 5. As you know, we track healthy Edmontonians, healthy economy, and compliance. Progress on health is consistently positive. As facilities continue to open, recreation attendance continues to trend up. The number of cyclists and pedestrians are also up compared to last month. On the economic side, while the news is generally positive, it is not consistently so. Transit ridership is up from last month and from this time last year. The number of development permits this year, more than 780, is higher than last month and higher than in both 2019 and 2020. However, the $250 million construction value of building permits is a decline from last month. Alberta's 9% unemployment rate in May, while stubbornly high, is a significant improvement from last year's 15% rate. And these results are our overall cause for cautious optimism, and we are moving in the right direction. As of July 1st, Alberta moved into Stage 3 of the province's Open for Summer plan. While this marked the end of most public health restrictions, some important measures remain in place. We also need to remember that the end of restrictions does not mean the end of COVID. As Dr. Hinshaw stated, it remains a potentially serious illness that we must keep respecting. Testing for Albertans with symptoms continues to be available, and contact tracing will occur for individuals that test positive. As always, anyone feeling unwell should stay home. Individuals experiencing symptoms of COVID-19, as well as those who test positive and their close contacts, will continue to be legally required to isolate for a minimum of 10 days. In addition, masks will continue to be required in healthcare settings and public transportation. This includes a requirement for both operators and passengers to wear a mask while riding on transit or in vehicles for hire and ride-sharing services. Based on Council's decision, the city's mask bylaw deactivated effective 1 July when the province entered Stage 3. As a result, masks are no longer required in most indoor public spaces. Through the new provincial order, masks continue to be required on public transportation. This order will no longer be enforced by the city's peace officers, as their authority under the Public Health Act has expired. The Edmonton Police Service will take over formal enforcement of the order, while the peace officers continue to provide education and will distribute masks to transit users as required. While masks may no longer be mandatory in many places, Alberta Health continues to encourage us to assess our own comfort level and risk as we transition into Stage 3 and make thoughtful decisions about continued mask use. Wearing a mask in city facilities continues to be welcome. In addition, we remind Edmontonians that businesses are undertaking this same assessment and may choose to continue to require masks for the safety of their staff and customers. We know we can count on everyone to respect the decisions of others about masking as we move forward together. The vast majority of municipalities in Alberta have aligned with the provincial reopening plan and repealed or suspended their mask bylaws, including the City of Calgary, which voted to repeal its bylaw yesterday. One exception is Canmore, which is considering its requirements today. Some municipalities, including the City of Calgary, are maintaining mask requirements for city-owned and operated facilities. Some municipalities, in their role as employer, are requiring mask wearing by municipal employees in the workplaces, much like we are doing here in Edmonton. Nationally, British Columbia joined Alberta in lifting indoor mask requirements on July 1st, while retaining a recommendation to continue wearing masks in public indoor settings. The City of Vancouver is following the provincial guidance. In Saskatchewan, all public health restrictions, including mask mandate, will be removed on July 11th, 2021. Ontario is following a slower reopening plan and is still in Stage 2. The City of Toronto has extended its mask bylaw until September 30th and will be conducting monthly reviews to determine if the bylaw needs to be lifted, extended, or amended. Additional facilities are scheduled to open in the coming weeks. The Aquatic Center at the Meadows Community Recreation Center opened July 1st, and Hardisty Leisure Center opened yesterday. Reopening dates are subject to change depending on the availability of staff resources and or provincial requirements. O'Leary Leisure Centre, Londonderry Leisure Centre, and the Twilliger Aquatic Centre are scheduled to open throughout the month of July. Drop-in access is now available at indoor recreation and leisure centres. Outdoor pools will continue to use the time entry ticket system booked through the Move Learn Play website to manage the high demand and ensure the safe enjoyment of these popular facilities. We anticipate welcoming more patrons to the outdoor pools as additional employees are brought on board this summer. Mootart Conservatory and the Edmonton Valley Zoo now allow customers to book timed entry online through Move Learn and Play and come for drop-in access on a first-come, first-served basis, subject to availability. Reserving in advance guarantees admission and does avoid lineups. Summer programs started this week with adult programs and day camps resuming at City Arts Centre and the John Walter Museum. The Green Shack program and outdoor camps are scheduled to begin July 12th. There were 1,300 employees who went on temporary layoff in the spring of 2020. Of those, 994 have received their return to work notice, with 740 back in the workplace now. The remaining 254 either have an upcoming return date or are on an active leave and will return when their leave is over. 133 staff have resigned upon receiving their recall notice. Recruitment efforts are ongoing to fill vacant positions due to those resignations. Some sites may experience operational impacts while the return to work and recruitment processes are completed. The remaining 173 staff are either in the process of being contacted or remain on temporary layoff and have not yet been recalled due to changing operations, program requirements, or facility closures. And I do have just an update on summer camp program. We have on the outdoor camps 92.2 sold. On the golf camp, 97.2% sold. On the City Arts Center, 96.2% sold. And in the John Walter Museum, 100% sold out for those series of summer camps. Fort Edmonton Park officially reopened on July 1st after being closed to the public for nearly 3 years. Guests can expect expanded amenities, including a new front entry plaza extended midway and the new 30,000 square foot Indigenous Peoples Experience. Time entry tickets must be booked online to manage high demand and ensure the safe enjoyment of the park. While staff are required to wear masks, visitors and guests to the park are encouraged to do so while riding any transportation services. Increased cleaning, signage, and sanitation stations are available throughout the facility. The TELUS World of Science Edmonton reopened for the first time since November and is hosting Dinosaurs of Antarctica in IMAX and Expedition Dinosaur, an immersive experience where life-size animatronic creatures from prehistoric times grace the cultivated landscape. The TELUS World of Science will be open Wednesdays to Sundays to start. Admission will be time-based to manage that capacity. Edmonton Public Library is delighted to share that most public services are now available. They are restarting services such as the EPL2 Go Literacy Van service and Settlement Practitioner service throughout the city, and will begin piloting in-person programs this month. The library will operate at 60% capacity for the week of July 5th to 11th and aims to remove capacity limits on or about July 12th. They anticipate moving to full hours of operation and full services by August 15th, once current staff vacancies have been filled. Edmonton Public Library continues to align with the city on the approach to masking for both staff and customers. Festival and events are important to Edmonton as they contribute to our local economy, connect citizens, showcase local and international talent, and certainly draw people to our city. Summer 2021 will be different from previous years in that many festivals and events have chosen to modify their programs to ensure public safety. Many favorite summer festivals plan to proceed with continued safety and program modifications, such as the Edmonton International Street Performers and the Edmonton International Folk Music Festival, who are taking it to the streets rather than in their usual locations on St. Sir Winston Churchill Square or on Gallagher Hill. Watch for parades and smaller, more intimate concerts in communities throughout the city. The Works Art and Design Festival will offer art on the square, online, and in communities from July 7th to 17th. Explore Edmonton will be hosting a province-wide fireworks show at the Edmonton Exhibition Lands track on July 9th. The fireworks will light up the sky in Edmonton, Lethbridge, Red Deer, and Calgary. All costs for this event are funded by the Stampede, and for us here, it's really a focus on Open for Summer. Taste of Edmonton will be back on Churchill Square July 22nd to August 1st with pre-sale and online food tickets and a larger space to distance. Edmonton Heritage Festival is, quote, out of hibernation and will offer performance events in the Heritage Amphitheatre beginning July 28th, along with their usual July 31st to August 2nd dates. They are asking participants to wear masks and socially distance. The Edmonton International Fringe Festival has not announced what the 2021 festival will look like just yet, but they are scheming and dreaming behind the scenes to imagine all the ways they can celebrate their 40th anniversary. The 2021 World Triathlon Championship Finals in Edmonton will see the world's best women and men triathletes compete for the 2021 championship title in William Horlock Park on August 21st, with a public race on the 20th and 22nd. Trickstar Productions will host the major outdoor concert series Together Again in the Edmonton Exhibition Lands racetrack area with 13 concerts in August. The Heritage Amphitheatre will host the return of the Edmonton Symphony Orchestra Symphony under August 24th to September 28th. And Treaty 6 Recognition Day will be celebrated here at City Hall on August 27th. All these festivals and events have developed COVID safety plans. They will encourage patrons to wear masks, maintain social distancing, and stay at home if the people are feeling sick. In terms of large events, Edmonton Elks' first home game in Commonwealth Stadium will be on Saturday, August 7th, with 7 more games running through November 13th. On August 26th, 27th, and 28th, the major stadium event will be held in Commonwealth Stadium with an official announcement coming soon. FC Edmonton is playing in Winnipeg until July 24th, after which the home schedule at Clark Park will begin. Explore Edmonton is hosting the Imagine Van Gogh, the original immersive exhibition from Europe at the Expo Center. The Edmonton Stingers have begun in-person home games at the Edmonton Expo Center and will host the Canadian Elite Basketball Championship weekend on August 20th to 22nd. COVID safety plans are in place for the safety of athletes and spectators. Yesterday, City Council approved the establishment of a 2021 Festivals and Events COVID-19 Recovery Grant. The grant will be up to $1 million. The grant program information will be going live on the city website shortly, with the application going live later this week. Many applicants are already beginning to reach out to administration for information. We will provide an update on the grants program uptake at the next Emergency Advisory Committee meeting. And winter events in early 2022 are also eligible to apply for this grant. I would now like to turn our attention to the vulnerable population. While we have a dip in temperatures right now, by Wednesday we're expecting to have as high as 30-degree temperatures again for a few days in a row. Our agency partners indicate that this will continue to put vulnerable people at risk, so we will continue the activation of the extreme weather response until the weather forecast indicates sustained lower temperatures. During the high temperatures, recreation centers are open for individuals in need of respite from the heat. Water bottles are supplied at those sites and in the field by peace officers. We wish to express gratitude to many Edmontonians who stepped up to support local social agencies by providing water to people in need and looking out for one another. We are currently seeing low levels of COVID-19 in the homeless community, with no social serving agencies under any outbreaks at this time. Vaccination continues with the Boyle Macaulay Health Services providing pop-up clinics at locations like the recent pancake breakfast at the Spectrum on July 1st and on the location at Boyle Street Community Services. Day program spaces like Bissell Center and Boyle Street Community Services no longer have physical distancing restrictions in their space, but are still required to maintain PPE standards. Agencies are evaluating new capacity limits, but at this time, no significant capacity changes are expected. Shelter guidelines were in place by AHS and the Community Social Services early in the pandemic to ensure that physical distancing standards and isolation procedures were maintained in social settings and shelter settings. This resulted in reduced capacity at shelter locations and the necessity of setting up temporary locations. We are collaborating with AHS and partners to monitor shelter capacity at temporary emergency shelter facilities, and will continue to work with partners as the AHS guidelines are updated. Right now, there is capacity in the emergency shelter system in this city. Turning to City Hall, the City Hall Public Space Use Policy highlights that City Hall is our legislative center and fosters the relationship between Edmonton's government and its community. It also recognizes that this building is a public space to visit, enjoy, celebrate, gather, discuss, and to plan. The COVID-19 task team and other areas of administration are working on a staged reopening of City Hall. Clearly, several of us are in City Hall now, and plans are underway to take a phased approach and open more fully after the summer council recess. After August 9th, for the first committee meetings after the council recess, or I should say starting August 9th, for the first committee meetings after the council recess, we will see 33% capacity in chambers. All councillors may attend in person. City clerks will remain in person, and up to 15 members of administration will join in person. This will leave up to 45 seated spaces for members of the public. Working with OH&S, it is recommended that where plexiglass has already been installed, It remains as an additional protection, not just against COVID, but against the flu as we move into the fall flu season. As of September 20th, we will be moving back to full occupancy in legislative spaces following the 2021 municipal election. Public bookings in City Room will then resume. And of course, all these plans will be subject to an ongoing review of the current health conditions. I'll include my update today, noting that our next EAC meeting is scheduled for August 12th. Over the next few weeks, the COVID-19 task team will begin its conversations about demobilization and the transition from responding to this pandemic to recovering from it as part of our usual course of business. I want to thank them for all their efforts. I want to thank you for your time today, and we are happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Corbould. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Henderson, for getting the meeting started. Questions? I think the order shifted here. I'm not sure who was first. I think Councillor McKean was first, then Councillor Henderson, then Councillor Essinger. So Councillor McKean, go ahead.
Thank you, and I apologize for the construction noise in the background, but that's good city work being done. Yes, Andre, I wanted to ask you about, if you went, one of your early slides showed that the vaccine rates in Edmonton, by my memory, is lower than the provincial average. Is that the case?
Yeah, it is indeed. That's as of July 5th. These numbers change sort of almost every day, but the last one we have available to us is July 5th. And yes, you're right. Eligible Albertans on July 5th were at 73.4% first dose and 48.4% fully vaccinated. And for Edmontonians, it was 67.1% first dose, and then eligible Edmontonians fully vaccinated at 47%, so a little lower. But again, these do change on a routine basis.
So is there any, I suspect there's already been some communications work being done, but is there more that we as a city and as city council, as leaders in this community, should be doing, you think, to try to get that number up?
I don't believe there's anything more that we could do, Councillor. There's quite a few communications, both at the provincial level. We're certainly supporting it. We're being as flexible as we can. And the rates are indeed very good. So I don't think there's much more that we can do or ask council to do at this point.
And it sounds like the efforts in the vulnerable population have been extensive or thorough. So it's not like the vulnerable population is dragging down those numbers. Am I correct in my assumption?
That's very correct.
Yeah. And I don't know if you or Dr. Sikora have any idea as to why Edmonton would be below the provincial average on vaccination rates. Just seems like an anomaly.
I just think it's a point in time, Councillor. There are times where we've been ahead of it, and there have been times where we're slightly behind as effective July 5th. We track these every time there's an update by the province, but I just believe it's just a point in time.
Maybe don't read too much into it then. Okay, that's fair, because accessibility remains really high of, pharmacies and AHS venues to get vaccinated. Maybe
that's correct. Yeah. And Dr. Sikora, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, just to reinforce that, these are point in time, and they do change, and there has been some revision to also include in our coverage rate per full population, as in not just our eligible population. So our eligible, again, is only 12 and up. Full population is everywhere from 0 to 120. Our gaps, or at least lowest rates across the province by age group, are the 20 to 39 and then 12 to 19 year old groups themselves. So that increase in accessibility and availability for those groups is something that I know is a great deal of focus from our partners at Alberta Health, but also industry and our public communications components.
So so demographics might even be part of the explanation, age demographics. I mean, okay, well, no, that is, and last question, Dr. Sikora. the accessibility for people to get vaccinated still remains really high?
The accessibility does remain very high. We have good supplies of mRNA-based vaccines, so either Moderna or Pfizer-based products at all of our public access locations. And then our pharmacy partners, as well as many family physician and community partners, are those access points for our public. So yes, accessibility remains high. We are making extra efforts in our vulnerable population through our vulnerable quality and our inner city health partners to make sure that we go out actively and seek individuals. But we've also had those secondary and parallel streams of communications with our family physicians to make sure that our vulnerable, either seniors or those with multiple medical comorbidities, are also have I think reminders that immunization is a very healthy and very valuable aspect for their own personal health.
Well, thank you. Thanks to both of you.
Thank you, Councillor McKean. Councillor Henderson is next.
Yeah, I essentially had the same question, but I just wanted to ask a really quick follow-up on it from the answer we just got back. Because our chart here is saying that it was the percent of eligible Edmontonians 12 plus first dose. Is it 67.1%? I actually thought we were over 70 a couple of weeks ago, so I'm wondering if that's mislabeled in the chart and it's actually percentage of all Edmontonians.
I don't believe so. I think that's accurate as of July 5th. There has been lots of reporting publicly at the province about over 18, which is why I also highlighted those numbers.
Those numbers were encouraging. I thought we were over, because I was also a bit surprised, because I actually thought the urban pickup was better than the rural pickup on this, and that's why I'm, it does seem to me a little bit of concern that we're showing is significantly behind the Albertan numbers. And I'm really just curious, just to follow up on those questions, because I thought it was the other way around. Dr. Sikora, about any more demographic information we may have on that, if there's certain populations that maybe need to get some targeted attention within our context, understanding it may be different in other cities or in other parts of the province?
I think we'd have to go back and re-verify the numbers.
Okay.
So good question overall. Certainly in terms of our coverage rates across our Edmonton zone municipalities, actually it's fairly good for first dose. Most are over 70% overall. So I think we just have to go back and re-verify these numbers.
So you're not sure, so these numbers may be a little bit, I was surprised by it, because I actually thought this number is lower than the one we had 2 or 3 weeks ago. So.
Actually, Ms. Poirier may have a specific update on this.
Sure, great,
Councillor
thanks.
Henderson, so go ahead, Nicole.
Yeah, thanks for that. We calculated this time around just the Edmonton statistics. Previously, the numbers we were using were the
region?
Edmonton zone. And so they were the regional numbers, and now just in Edmonton, those are the numbers as we calculate. So we will go back and take another look just to confirm that the math is correct.
And I only really ask, but because obviously our fully vaccinated numbers are great. We're getting close to that, as we thought we would be, very close to that 50% mark. But I only ask because if there's stuff that we can do, with our ability to sort of, as a kind of voice pieces, to if there are specific demographics that need to be encouraged here, and we can play a role in that, this begins to look to me like there may be chunks of people that, for whatever reason, I'd understood that some of it's age demographic, but it'd be interesting to know if there's other demographics that we need to focus on, and if we can be helpful there in saying that out loud, I'm happy to do that. And it'd be great to know if we have that. I don't know if we have the data at that kind of level, but if we did, it would be very helpful and useful to know. So those are my questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Etzinger.
Thank you very much, and thank you for a really comprehensive presentation. Many of my questions have been answered. I have a couple left. The first one is on the rec centers. We're opening more and more over time. Do we have an estimated date when they'll all be open? People are wondering, what about this one? Do we have some tentative dates?
Just see if somebody from Recreation wants to respond to that.
And Nicole or Rhonda, can you weigh in on that?
Yes, So we're working, go ahead, Rhonda. Nope, I'll take it. So a number of them are opening in the coming weeks. We do have a number of facilities that are on, they're under construction or maintenance. So not all facilities will be opening immediately. I will follow up to find out exactly when those will all be opened, but on a normal basis, we do have a number of facilities that are down for maintenance requirements.
And just to follow up on that, Councillor, we can certainly send to all of council just sort of the schedule of the planned opening dates, as Nicole says. We'll get that up to council.
Thank you. And, you know, it might be valuable on the city website like you did with Spray Park, so people could know when theirs would be open. It was helpful. Thank you very much. My other question is around the city room. I've had some questions about the city room and when it's open and when people can start booking. So I think you said you were not going to open it up until after the election. At what point, though, can they start booking so they can plan events? Do we have probably are different dates?
Yes, Councillor Esslinger, they can begin to take, we are taking those bookings now. So they are welcome to email, and we'll get the email address out to all of the councillors. And so we are taking the bookings, but are not going to actually have events in there until after the election.
Okay, because a lot of people are eager to get back to that. And my final question was on staffing. I think, Mr. Corbo, you talked about a number of the staff that have been on temporary layoff are coming back. Do we still have many staff that are on layoff at this point, or is that the last bit to come back?
Yeah, so we do have 254 that will get a return date soon or are on active leave. So they'll either come back when in the coming weeks or when their leave is over. And I did want to note that we did have 133 staff who resigned upon receiving their recall notice because they had, you know, for whatever reason decided that they didn't want to come back. They may have got other job opportunities and things like that. So that is a piece that we're recruiting to now, which might take a few more weeks.
But then overall, all the people who wanted to come back will be back then in the next little while. Is that what I understand?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Councillor Cartmel is next.
Thank you. Thanks for the report today. Just one question for Mr. Kerbel. You mentioned that, and I believe you said, I just want you to expand on this a little bit or provide a bit more detail, that as an employer, the City of Edmonton is requiring employees to continue wearing masks in their workplaces for the time being. Is there a date by which that policy is going to remain in place? And can you just expand a little bit on the I guess the notion that we're requiring employees to maintain masks, but we've deactivated our bylaw. So essentially they're working in the same places as private patrons. And there seems to be a bit of a, I don't know, a contradiction in terms there that people are perceiving. So if you can just expand on that, please.
Yeah, so I wouldn't call it a contradiction. It kind of goes back to the concept of we're dialing things slowly back as opposed to turning an off switch. And so I think the first step of that was repealing the bylaw, which was never intended to apply to workspaces as much as it was public spaces. And then in terms of from an employee perspective, we have a responsibility to do occupational health and safety assessments for each stage of the return. As, for example, we did when we had the recent restrictions where nobody was in council chambers. We did a full occupational health and safety assessment to make sure we were good to come back. One of the reasons I don't want to turn off the switch immediately is because it's really important that we bring leaders in first, and leaders have the time, starting as early as 5th of July, to assess their workspaces and make sure that they do those occupational health and safety assessments, which are mandated by law and are the right thing to do. And so the fact that we're sort of phasing it gives lots of time for people to enter the workspace who have never been here for a long time. They do their formal assessments. They make sure everything is safe. They then bring a certain amount of employees back. And of course, we're not rushing to bring all the employees back either, because some of them have family matters to take care of, and we're being very flexible right up to September 20th. Having said all that, we did have a date for when mask wearing in the workplace would be voluntary, and I just can't think of it, but I'm going to see if someone else on ELT can remember that specific date, and I see Miss Armstrong is on the line.
Thanks, Andre. It's August 1st.
Right, yeah. So August 1st, it becomes no longer mandatory to wear a mask as a employee in the city.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that.
Councillor Banga?
Thank you. Dr. Sikora, question for you. Normally, when we get the flu shots, whatever, only about 35% people get their vaccination. Is there any target for Alberta Health Services that they expect this number of people percentage of people to get vaccinated? Go ahead, please.
Are you speaking specifically to our COVID-19 vaccine program?
That is correct.
So Alberta Health would be the entity that would set those targets overall. And certainly we hope to get as many people as possible protected and immunized. So certainly higher numbers, like our influenza campaigns, higher numbers are always better in terms of being able to provide that full population level protection for everyone, because immunization is one of those critical tools to help stop transmission from person to person. We would like to see higher numbers than we have overall, and certainly the efforts do continue to help address individual barriers to immunization, but we also know that there is a certain percentage of our population that is either unable to be immunized or will just outright refuse to partake into that immunization program itself.
Okay. And Dr. Sikora, one more question for you. Some people, they have, for some reason, built in, I guess, thinking that there is one vaccine is better than other. Do the people have a choice of getting what they think is pleasing them? For example, Pfizer, Moderna, or AstraZeneca, whatever the case may be?
I believe that at this point, given our availability and I think stable supply stream for immunization products themselves, there is that choice available to individuals to be able to choose what is there. And just given our supply chain right now, we're in a much more stable position than we were even just several weeks ago.
Okay. Mr. Corbel, question for you is are these festivals, for example, Heritage Festival, when you said they're coming out of hibernation, and are they going to be like business as usual in the past?
I would say overall, no, they won't be business as usual. Like I've said, every one of them are taking special precautions. They've got specific COVID safety plans. They're encouraging patrons to wear masks and maintain social distancing, and of course stay at home if they're feeling sick. So I would say not as per normal. Probably likely smaller, but with specific COVID safety plans in place, which moderates and changes the way they're laid out and the size of the events in many cases.
So you mean to say that there would be sort of counted entry in there into those venues, but in the Heritage there are so many entrances, exits, people go from all over the place, and would that be controllable?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say they're limiting access. And it kind of changes depending on which festival and which venue. So I don't have the details of each one, but I can say that they've all taken safety precautions. They've got COVID plans. They've worked with AHS on developing COVID plans for the safety of the public, and so we have a high level of confidence that they'll be run in a positive way.
Thank you.
Councillor Henderson?
Yeah, just sort of another couple of questions I'm just curious about. We may not have the answers, and I apologize if it was in your presentation, I missed it. It was my impression, I was out, doing shopping after council last night, and it looked to me like just about everybody in the supermarkets and the various stores I was in was still wearing masks, which is, I think, a good news story. Do we have any kind of, any numbers on that about, it may not be terribly useful, but I'd be curious if we did. It'd be nice to be able to share that with people. Yeah, we don't have any. Oh, your mic.
Sorry, Councillor. We don't have any specific numbers on who's wearing masks, and of course, we're not doing sort of compliance measures to that. But I would say it's not surprising that coming out of a 98% sort of compliance level consistently for quite a long time, again, it's going to be the dialing back of that. And because so many places are still encouraging mask usage, notwithstanding the bylaw, I think a lot of people are listening to that.
Yeah,
so,
no, I must say
I would agree. I see a lot more people wearing masks than not wearing masks.
I think I saw one person not.
Yeah.
And I was in 3 fairly large stores. But my other question is a little bit linked to that. I did get an email from somebody who, I think we may have all got it, I'm not sure it was specific to me, who was upset because a store had made them wear a mask and they felt that the store was breaking the law by making them do that. And I know they're not.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if, in terms of our messaging, if that's something we can assist with, is making it, clear to the public that, every store has the right to do that, and to be understanding of that, because that's the one friction point that I think that a number of businesses that I represent were very worried about with us lifting the bylaw, and I'm wondering if there's some messaging we can do to help with that.
We have done some messaging on that. We can continue to do that, Councillor, and we are, I was working with some of the BIAs just to see how the first few days were going as well, and we can certainly help with that messaging.
What did you hear back from them? Just
I think I probably asked a little too early because the responses I got back, because I hadn't had a chance to sort of check with everybody yet, but I expect to get some good, some positive responses this week. Certainly checked in with, Strathcona Business Association and others to see how the first few days are going. But to be honest, I've heard more complaints about some of the scooter activity than mask issues, which
a whole other issue
is a whole other issue, but somewhat encouraging.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Councillor Zadick.
Thank you. Interesting comments about masks. My observations in Ward 3 have been a little bit different than Councillor Henderson's, but I want to ask about garbage can emptying in our parks around Beaumaris Lake, around some other places throughout the city. Now that we have more folks enjoying the nice weather, maybe people stayed in during the heat wave, but people are out and about now. And a common complaint to our office is that municipal garbage cans are not being emptied. Any thoughts on why that's the case, and do we need to have more collections?
Councillor, we haven't reduced any levels of service, so perhaps if there's specific locations that need a little bit of extra attention, we could certainly address those. I would just say if you can forward those locations to our office, but again, we haven't reduced any levels of service at all with respect to that. After last year, we were able to ramp back up and have consistent levels in all areas. But if there, again, are specific areas that need more attention, we can address those.
Thank you. I'll do that. No more questions.
Any other questions? So we will keep the EAC in the books for August and see if we need it. If there's no need for an update, we can cancel it, but probably best to leave it in the schedule for now. So, need a motion to receive this report for information.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Don't need a second or a committee. Please vote.
we have all the votes, Mr. Chair, except for yours and Councillor Resslinger's. Oh, we have Councillor Resslinger's.
I realized I clicked into the public hearing, not EAC, so I'm a yes.
Thank you. We have all the votes.
Display the vote. Carried. Okay, that's it for EAC today. You guys received 3.2 earlier, yes? Okay, then we're all done.